Hi, I'm back and I'm doing my series, and today is what I wish I would have known when I had newborn babies. Now, mainly this is my first one because you learn a lot in your first one and you do your second one a little different, and your third one, if it's years later, trust me that you can do the whole thing different. But what I wish I would have known with my first baby and being a new mom, that's what I wish I would have known when I was a new mom. What I didn't know when I got pregnant, I was excited, but I had absolutely no idea that my entire life was going to change. 100%. Completely change, but for the better. And it's not that I wish I would have known that, but I relished being pregnant. I loved just the whole thing, the nursery. I sewed. My husband, he's so sweet all the time. Oh my gosh, if you only knew. I told him that I wanted to do the nursery myself. I didn't know how to sew anything. But he went out and bought me a brand new sewing machine that I still own. Now, it only gets used about every 3 years to make, a craft. But I don't know. I just owned being a new mom. I owned it. I sewed that nursery. I made bumper pads. I made the quilt. I made the wall hangings. I made all kind of things. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was just my way of, I don't know. I just loved it so much. And we didn't have any money anyway, so it was a lot cheaper for me to make it all. And I still remember it was rocking horses. And I never found out if I was having a boy or a girl with any of my kids. So I did my first 2 rooms generic colors. The rocking horse room was primary colors. The second room was light blue and white or cream, and it was bears. And then that ended up being a boy. So that was good because it kind of, bears and blue. That was good. But it would have been fine for a girl. But then my third baby, I didn't know what she was going to be either. But at the store, I picked out a complete boy crib set and a total pink girl crib set, and had my mom go pick it up while I was in the hospital. So, because I knew if I was having a girl third time, this nursery was going to be pink. There was no question. So I was excited I did that, and I was glad she was a girl because I got my pink frilly, not frilly, but pink nursery. That's what I wanted. Okay. When I brought home my first baby, I kind of wish I would have known that you can be real emotional. Now, I think I read that, but I didn't really understand it or believe it. And that your hormones are going up and down and you're not really thinking clearly. At least I wasn't. You're tired because you're up constantly and you're completely, now this is just me. Maybe other new moms aren't like this, but I was completely engrossed in this child, And it was great. I don't know. I just loved it. But what was I going to say? I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh gosh, my mind. Oh yeah, my mind is still gone. See, from having 3 kids. I didn't know that you might not be thinking clearly. And I do remember one thing that I did that was so horrible, but it's so funny now. My mom came for the first, she came when the baby was born. She lived in Houston. I lived in Houston. She lived in Dallas. She came down, and my dad came too, but not at that moment. But anyway, she came down with the baby. Oh, my dad took vacation, 2 weeks vacation. No, right before the birth, up to 10 days after the birth, because we assumed, or the due date, we assumed I would have the baby in that time period. Guess what? I was 10 days late, and my dad went and flew a flight the day I had the baby because he couldn't wait any longer, and he'd already taken time off. But he flew back into Dallas, believe me, to see the baby. But my mom was there, and it was about day 3, and hold on to your horses, but I did not breastfeed, and I will get into that later on another video. I won't talk about breastfeeding, but I will explain to you something that's very important for you here, especially you young moms. I decided to bottle feed the baby. Okay, and so I'm tired and I'm not thinking. My husband's at work and my mom's standing there and we're in the kitchen and I had formula ready to eat. Like I had a few of these really expensive cans that was pre-mixed that the hospital gave me a case of this pre-mixed formula. So I remember standing there reading the can and it says does not need to be refrigerated. And so I'm like, okay, okay. And I'm half asleep, and I'm pouring up, like, my husband and I always made, the bottles for the day at like in the afternoon so that we would have them for that night and the next morning, everything sitting in the refrigerator, right? Well, I read that and I've got my bottles sitting out and I pour the bottles up for the next 24 hours and I put the lid on the bottles and I start putting them in the pantry. Okay, but I've opened the can, okay, and I've poured it and I'm putting them in the pantry. And my mom walks up and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm putting the bottles away." And she said, "What are you doing? You're going to make that baby sick." And it hit me right as she said that of course these bottles go in the refrigerator. But the 2 days before that, when we got home from the hospital, we had the glass bottles that were even a bottle already made up. So I hadn't done formula myself. And of course, I would have figured it out, I don't know when, in that time period, or my husband would have come home and said, "Why are the bottles in the pantry?" But when she said that, and she didn't mean it the way I took it at all. She just said, "You're going to make the baby sick. You have to put those in the refrigerator." I lost it. I started crying. I thought I was a horrible mother. I'm never going to be able to raise this child. And then I remember my mom's friend came down in that time period too. I can't remember the time period, but in that couple of days at the beginning. So they went shopping. I remember the day they went shopping. It was like day 3 or 4 after I was home. And Scott was at work. They went shopping and I was alone. And I remember relishing in the fact that when they walked back in the door about 3 hours later, the baby was still there and doing fine. Because it was like when you're surrounded by so many people in the beginning, it's like you don't really know if you can do it yourself or will something happen when they're gone. I don't know. I had every imagination you can imagine about what was going to happen to this child. I slept, yes, with my hand on her back for a few nights, but then I realized that that's just not going to work because when you fall asleep, your hand goes off her back. But you know how it is. If you've had a baby, you're just crazy. Okay. The other things I wish I would have known is, well, I did these things, so I knew them. I never listened to anyone about how often to hold the baby. We held her all the time. Now, we did a schedule, sort of, but it was an open-ended schedule. It was whatever she wanted, and we held her all the time. I don't think you can hold a baby too much unless you have one that's crying all the time. And then you have to have a break from that. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I never had a colicky baby. I don't know how you deal with that, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I just think holding your baby is awesome and wonderful. I never let my babies cry for any length of time unless they were a year old and they were, waking up in the middle of the night all of a sudden. All 3 of mine slept right through the middle of the night at 6 to 8 weeks. I was very, very fortunate. But I think scheduling them helps that. But trust yourself. That's the other thing I would say about having a new baby is trust yourself. You know the baby more than anybody. And I remember one time a pediatrician made me feel so good. I took her in. She was probably a year old, 2 years old, and she was sick. And I didn't really think I needed to take her in, but I did. And the doctor said something to me that has always stuck with me. He asked me a few questions about her, and he said, she doesn't need any medicine or anything. You can just take her home. She had like a cold, I guess. But what he said to me was she playing? Was she acting normal? Was she being herself? And I said, yes. And he goes, okay, then she's fine. And he said, I always listen to the mom. If the mom says they're lethargic, even if they may not look like it to me, I listen to the mom. He said, I always listen to them because they know. The mom knows. So listen to yourself, trust yourself, have a great time, hold them as much as you want. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. I did read some not child rearing books. I knew I wasn't going to follow somebody's idea of how to raise your kid, as in disciplining and all that. I kind of knew that innately, how to do that. But like, I guess just like newborn, like all that newborn stuff and baby stuff. Like, is it normal that they sneeze today 15 times? Oh my gosh, is that normal? Stuff like that, you know. I read a lot of books on that kind of thing. And while I think that's good, I don't think you have to go by everything the books say. Now, a new phenomenon I'm seeing with girls now is they'll put stuff on Facebook, like about breastfeeding or not breastfeeding, or cloth diapers versus the other kind, disposable diapers, and all those kinds of things. And they get 18,000 opinions. And moms are quite sure that their way's the right way, because I think you have to convince yourself of that, because otherwise you constantly second guess yourself. Now I think that you get too much information. Like, I might have a book next to me, but I'm not flipping through that book 24/7 like I might flip through Facebook, or I might Google every little thing the baby does. I think that, number one, I think that could take away from the joy of you discovering how to be a mom. And number two, I think it can completely keep you conflicted in your mind if whether you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, I saw this, I keep seeing this thing from someone that I know that's had a baby, and it's all about these special kind of diapers that they use that are cloth diapers, and then there's a special cover thing, or I don't know how the whole thing works, but it's some new thing, and it's supposed to be great. Okay, well, I used one cloth diaper. My husband and I had no money, so we thought we were going to have to use cloth diapers. So in the hospital, they did use cloth diapers back in 1984 when my first baby was born, and my husband changed one of them, changed her in her little bassinet, you know, in the room one day. And he looked at me and he says, I don't know, but we're not using these cloth things. This is gross. We're not doing this. So we never did. 3 kids, we never used anything but disposables, okay? Now, I know there's environment thing, and I know all this thing, but, you know, there's the other argument of washing and drying all these diapers all the time also cost the environment. It really does. Now, you're not putting it in the landfill, but you are using energy and water and all that kind of stuff. Who cares? You decide how you're going to diaper your baby and move on with your life. But it seems to me, I've noticed on Facebook, it's like a war. It's like a war. It's like this person will put this big paragraph, and then this person will put this giant paragraph, and then this paragraph. Oh my gosh, that would have driven me crazy when I was a new mom. So, as I said, when you're a teenager, not to be on Facebook all the time, or Google all the time, or the computer all the time, I would also say that to moms. Turn it all off. Put your phone away. Turn it off. Get your iPad, take it away. Turn off your laptop, and just enjoy your kids and just be a mom. Just use your instincts and move on with your life. And don't constantly think you have to check every little thing you do with your friends or your mom. Well, your mom, sure. But, you know, you don't have to check everything. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think that would have been very difficult. So, being a new mom is just the greatest thing in the world. And, yeah, so that's my video on what I wish I would have known and remembered, and some of the things I did know that I loved, being a new mom. And yes, you're tired. Just be ready for that. But I can remember, I didn't know how tired I was going to be, but with all 3 of them, really. I remember when they would wake up in the middle of the night for their feeding, and you walk in and you look at them, and it's all worth it. And I'm sure there's nights I was exhausted and tired. And my husband did get up with the kids a lot too. He would take the early morning feeding, because then he would go on to work. So that 4 a.m., 5 a.m. feeding he would take, which was wonderful. I would do like the midnight. And, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't last forever, but you are extremely tired. But just remember, it doesn't last forever. And enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it, because there's nothing like it. I'm telling you, there's nothing like a new baby in the house. So that's my new mom on what I wish I would have known. And my next series is going to be what I wish I would have known raising children. So watch out for that one. Thanks. Bye-bye.